I I do fear a second Trump presidency, if only for my own sanity. It's an incredibly selfish want for Trump to be out of office, so that I don't have to fucking cringe every day when I hear the fucking news. God damn it. Um,
But the content, though, think of the
think of the
internet
thing.
content.
Yeah, how am I going to grow as a leftist content creator if Trump isn't in office? I think that 100%. There are two reasons why these Twitter lefties are super against um, Biden winning. One, it gets them a lot of internet clout because they're saying fuck the Democrats, right? And two, they can continue to grow their clout while Trump is a president again. You know, it's
Hmm.
I really I mean this sincerely. If there's any Twitter leftist that's super Bernie or bust, or thinks that there's any way to um, equivocate uh, Trump and Biden, I really, really want to have them on and fucking just grind them into dust, because there's no way that their ideology can hold up. You know, it's so fucking crazy. Oh, thanks for the follow, Manga Preacher.
Hmm.
Yeah, and hey guys, if you guys like this sort of conversation, please throw me a like or subscribe or whatever the fuck they call it here. Subscribe is the one where you have to pay. Yeah, throw me one of those as well. Give me some money. Help me buy a
Please.
processor, please. But yeah, what were you gonna say about Trump?
Well, for one, someone said in chat, wasn't the first step back sponsored by Doug Collins? It was first introduced. My bad. It was introduced and sponsored by Doug Collins at first, but it was a bipartisan bill. After that came along Dick Durbin, beautiful name, incredible, and a lot of other people from the right and left. It was bipartisan at the end of the day, and it also passed the Senate 87-12. So it wasn't like it was pretty bipartisan bill. It was pretty milk toast. No one really was against it too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see,
Um,
and passing one bill isn't enough to make me fucking like Trump. I'm sorry, it's just not.
remember being sued. Remember him being sued and losing against the government after not renting homes to black people. I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember I had a guy. Well, oh, but to your point, about what is it, the burn
Oh
your bus
fuck!
things. I think it's better to just be
Thanks,
nicer
Mr.
to
Geek.
him. You know.
It'd be nice to the
Thank you,
Bernier
Mister
Busters.
Geek. I think it's just be. I mean, just
I
most
see.
people.
Yeah.
There's a guy. His name is Black Web Hitman. He was the guy I originally had a burn your bus debate with. Cool dude. He actually. I mean, the thing is, lots of these people care about people. Don't think about like socialist MMA and like a lot of these other dudes. There are people who actually genuinely care and don't think Biden is good. His thing is, I don't want more wars, and Biden has been kind of pro war his entire thing. But I'm like, listen, there's nothing Biden is gonna do that Trump was going to do better, and nothing bad that Biden's going to do that Trump was going to do, that Trump isn't going to do worse. So at the end of the day, there's no point to keeping Trump in office. It just isn't, especially on war.
Yeah. No, I can't think of a single thing that I would rather Trump take care of that um as opposed to Biden. It really, really blows my mind trying to do the mental gymnastics. There's no amount of stretching or warm up that I can do with my brain to do those mental gymnastics. I'm not
That's
flexible
true.
enough.
If they took this to the Olympics, they'd get a 10 from Japan and Germany. But I'm thinking that Canada may give us a solid 7. They're a little critical sometimes. But to the man, just they're just I think I've actually gotten to understand where they're coming from. I was able to explain it when I was talking about the Rising and where they are now. It's Let me explain it to you, okay? I think I have it pinpointed. They're
Mm-hmm.
so far gone that they have been able to push the Democrats and the Republicans so far away from them that they're virtually the same distance. Okay, you look at I don't know. You look at Sagittarius. My bad. You look at Sagittarius and you look at Capricorn, the two constellations. They're so far away. They're basically a similar distance. I mean, from where we're standing, that's what they think. So they're so far away from each other that they think that they're both equally far away, so they're both equally bad. And if that's the case, there's no point to vote for either because both are going to do the exact same things.
I here's my thing on Bernie or Busters, right? I have had conversations with people that are Bernie or Bust that have been very, very nice and good faith. I can't. One person that I have conversations, and I have a conversation set up on Friday with about the Portland shooting. Nathan Stinney. He, I don't remember if it was with him, but the the conversations that you can have with Bernie or Busters can be empathetic and can be nice. It's when they actually think that there is no meaningful difference that it really, really gets me. Um, and I understand they're so far in one direction or the other or whatever, or horseshoe theory, or you know, I
I don't think it's like horseshoe theory. It's just when both things look similarly bad, from where you're sitting, it's easy to think that you can just kind of negate both and think that they're about the same.
yeah, I think that
Because when
it
because when you argue with these people, right? What's the line of argumentation they go down? But Trump is bad, sure, but then here's all these things about this, and this from Biden. You have to like look at where the argument goes. At the end of the day, where it goes is Biden is uh, um, as bad as Trump, or worse. If not, he's so bad that there's virtually no significant difference. So there's no point to voting for them.
yeah, I wish there was a way that people could get through to them, because I don't hate the Bernie or Busters policies. Obviously, I'm super into Medicare for
Mhm.
all. Um, I want people, and again, this is something that I've been craving for myself. I want people to be able to think more critically about everything that's going on and think more realistically. Which is why when it comes to socialism and stuff like that, the only one that I can get on board is because I can argue for it in a at least relatively um, uh, soonish time span. This market
Yeah, I think we
socialism, right?
can. I really think that we could do that. I remember I was watching a video not too long ago, and it showed a lot of positions that your average American holds, and it's honestly not that far from just populist leftism. It's really not on a lot of things. I forget exactly what it was, but I think it was a Gallup poll. Pacman put out a video on it. I know a lot of people have a lot of things
I
to say
like
about
Pacman.
Pacman. Yeah, I
He's a
mean,
little bit
a
of a
lot of people have a
boomer
lot of things to say about.
sometimes.
A little bit. He's 32.
I know there's
He
some
does not look
videos that he's
32.
put out that made me. I'm like, wow, this guy's like a 30-year-old boomer. Like he doesn't understand
Hmm.
this. Really
I
quick, I
mean,
just want to address
yeah.
something
Go ahead.
Hive Mentality is saying in chat. Obama and Biden bombed the shit out of Libya, and the news reported on page 57. Yemen as well. Yeah, okay. Uh, I don't like that either. But do I think that Trump has been any better? No. There's just no there's no comparison. Trump has been as ready with the bombs in Yemen, especially as Obama and Biden. I
Trump's first bombing run killed an American girl, and also Trump in his first 2 years has done more bombing than I think in Obama's last 4 years, if I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I
Like
wouldn't doubt it.
Trump is just like he's insane with bombing, and we forget that he bombed a foreign head on allied soil. Did we just forget about this? I mean, yeah, Obama and Biden are they're hawks. Sure, I mean for their time, I think most of America was behind them. See, this is the thing that I think I don't like is that a lot of them feel like they're more right than they are. They think they take the
Yeah.
silent majority route, right? Like with the whole Patriot Act thing. I think I remember like the contemporaneous studies or polls that were done. I'm pretty sure like most of the country was on board with the Patriot Act when it came out. And for several years afterwards, most people were pretty fine with it. I think even still today, there's a decent plurality of people who genuinely still like the Patriot Act. I mean, we have to understand the country we're living in. I don't
Yeah.
think they do.
100%. And of all the things that I'm trying to educate myself on and educate my
Yeah, and the Iran deal.
yeah, the Iran deal. Fucking Jesus, why did we get out? The well, I know why we got out, because Trump's a
Muslim
fucking
bad.
crazy, yeah, Muslim bad. Um, as I go on my political journey, and as I'm bringing people along with me through chat and stuff, I haven't been able to really touch on foreign policy because of everything that's going on right now. The things that I want to focus on, in terms of philosophy of politics, and the economic policies I want to run on, or I want to uh, uh, see what I believe truly. Yeah, and see Dylan Burns. I actually need
You
to
triggered him.
watch. Yeah, no, I need to watch some of his content so that I understand that shit, because I think that it's super, super important. I think it's so important, but I can only learn about so many things at once, right?
I
Oh,
thought so too. With the passing of Michael Brooks, there was a big hole in like the left wing sphere of international politics. I guess I mean, Dylan, there you go, bud. There's my killer take for you. You got to fill the hole that Michael Brooks left when it came to international politics on there. That, and also I
oh
did a
shit.
little segment.
Do
What?
you wanna bring Dylan Burns in?
Oh sure, sounds fun.
Yeah.
I remember I did
How's it going,
I
buddy?
made a video on oh, is he here?
Yep,
Hello. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Wonderful, wonderful. How's it
All
going?
right. Fuck.
Hey,
Well,
it's pretty well. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing
I can
okay.
update the thing again, but um,
Add my name into it.
add your name into it. Let's get that fucking that content shit going. You know. Um,
Ah,
but really quick, Shark, you go ahead and finish your thing, and then we'll see what hot take Dylan wants to drop.
Sure, no problem. I bet he's, is going to be better than what I have to say. But I made a YouTube video about the whole situation with Turkey and Greece, with them just dumping migrants into the ocean. If you haven't seen it, so basically, Turkey is using the migrants that they help like filter through to the EU to help them fund their escapades in Syria. I'm quite sure, and what they're doing there is they're kind of like using them as pawns and throwing them at Greece, and then Greece is like taking them and just dumping them back into the Mediterranean on the Turkey side, just in the ocean. They're like telling them, "Hey, we're gonna take you to another holding facility. The migrants there, they're not letting them seek asylum or anything like that, and then they're just taking them, putting them on leaky boats, and then just dropping them into the ocean until like the Turkish Coast Guard can go pick them up. It's really bad. So yeah, I think foreign policy is really should be a bigger topic, even though we got a lot of stuff here at home.
Yeah. I certainly that's the thing. I know there's so much shit that happens abroad that probably affects us in our day-to-day lives that we just don't really think about. But I certainly don't know what those things are, besides military spending or anything like that, trade deals. But how are you doing, Dylan? What was it that you wanted to drop on us? That hot foreign policy knowledge.
I just heard foreign policy, so I jumped in. I just heard the word.
The
That's how
word
it
of the
works.
horde.
Yeah, it's like summoning a Candyman. If you look in the mirror and say it
Yeah,
three
yeah, yeah, yeah.
times, I just appear. Um, First, I would like to say thank you very much to Shark for alleging that I could try to fill the gap that Michael Brooks left. The last conversation I had with Michael was him being extremely supportive of some stuff I was doing, and supportive of the work I was doing with the Michaela Wilkes campaign. So it was weird for that to be like one of the last things I talked to him about, was just him constantly supporting left wing activists across the country. When it comes to foreign policy online generally, it is something that I think most people kind of just blindside or don't look into, which means, and I think that's generally been true about foreign policy, period. I think that the right wing dominate foreign policy. Generally, hardcore realist thought has dominated foreign policy for a while, and then when left wingers do somewhat get a shot, it almost feels like they kind of blunder it. Or when we have accomplishments, the right wingers will come in after us and kind of smash them up, like the
Yes.
JCPOA. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an imperative to make sure that when we talk about foreign policy, or when we talk about struggles generally about who do we want to get in office, who what are we going to advocate for. We need to talk about how no matter who we vote for, this is going to affect the entirety of the world. We have the largest, strongest military on the planet. We're a global hegemon of sorts. It's kind of weird that foreign policy is not a larger topic when it comes to foreign policy conversations. Because while Americans might not know a lot about foreign policy, countries that are affected by our foreign policy most certainly know a lot about American foreign policy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I so when it comes to foreign policy, what do you think is probably well, there's probably no easy answer to this. So if you want to give a couple of answers, what do you think are the biggest things that affect people in their day to day lives that we should know more about in general to just either argue better points or to inform people how foreign policy is important.
I think that talking about how foreign policy affects the condition of labor in this country, trade, of course, we could talk about the trade war with China. Of course, you can talk. I think trying to correlate how our domestic policy and how foreign policy affects our nation is important. Talking about how I think trade is the best example of this, on how if we were to have a trade war with China, the effects that could, decoupling from China, as many have proposed, the effects that could have on the American economy and the effects that could have on the American consumer. And of course, there's the idea of talking about how, and this is not talked about a lot, how American domestic policy affects our foreign policy. One great example is we tried to make a stand for Hong Kong like we should. We tried to make a stand for Iranian protesters like we should. I believe we should stand up for protesters in Belarus. We should stand up for protesters in Haiti, Chile, Bolivia. That one isn't talking about how the Bolivian government has killed indigenous protesters after Anez came to power. But it's hard for us to go to the world stage and kind of come out heart throbbing and crying and talking about these issues when you look at our own country and Amnesty International is writing reports how American free speech is not being protected under the current administration, and how our police are going out and beating up journalists just so Trump can get a photo op, or the black bagging of protesters is occurring. The same tactic that is being used in Belarus to take away dissidents. The only difference is when those dissidents disappear, they usually followed up with beatings and threats of rape in prison by prison guards on a widespread scale as an order from the government, most likely. So it's kind of hard for us to go to the world stage and talk about this, and actually have countries want to listen. There was a political comic that kind of showed me this. That had Joshua Wong, which is a well-known activist in Hong Kong, who walked up to Derek Chauvin, who had his knee on the back of George Floyd's neck, and he said, "Okay, great. Can you come liberate Hong Kong now?" Which kind of hits at the heart of the issue of we're talking about the police violence over there while perpetrating many of the same crimes at home. So I think making that connection and trying to show how our ability to affect change around the world, change that Americans seem to care about, whether it be at Hong Kong or Belarus, is kind of difficult when our own domestic policy is making it easier for these authoritarian regimes to kind of get away with it. So I think trying to make those connections to everyday life is something that we do. And of course, which has always been a bulwark of trying to get people invested, make the emotional argument of showing them personal stories. I just watched an amazing documentary on Belarus today, which was about the crackdown on the Belarusian opposition after the 2010 elections, which I would recommend to anybody to watch it. Which, if you guys want it, I can send it your way. It's just been made free.
I actually have a friend that lives in Belarus, a fellow content creator. He does stuff on YouTube, and I've been so scared to even message him about it because I don't want him to get any blowback for possibly saying something negative over Discord or something.
Yeah, like police are already finding protesters from Etsy shirt purchases, so I can only imagine what they're doing over there.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I need to.
That's why
it.
lots of people are trying to hide their shirts and stuff in their face.
I know that Dylan went on to Vosh's stream and talked about Belarus, and I haven't had a chance to look at that. But I actually need to go and look at that because this guy has not posted in a while, and so I'm a little bit worried about him. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of stuff that we have to fix here at home, that we can look at other examples around the world to to show people, hey, look, they're running up to protesters and beating the ever loving shit out of them in Belarus. Remind you of anything? I don't know. I feel a kind of doomer sense when I try and talk about any kind of police brutality with people. I just had a conversation at the very beginning of my stream with Redneck, and it feels like there's no way that we can ever get through to them, you know?
I think it needs like a really big change. I don't know. A lot of like Trump supporters, they're pretty far off the deep end. Sadly, they're like like 29% of the electorate or something. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's just a little ironic that our massive patriot president is talking about shithole countries when like EU like poverty inspectors come to some parts in the deep south and see that some people are like sitting in like water holes with E. coli. You know, they say that we had some of the worst poverty in the developed world. Like we have stuff like that. I remember I read an article about in some of these ICE detention centers, they're literally like what is it? They're not feeding Muslim inmates halal food. They're just dropping pork in front of them and then telling them to get over it. I think even a chaplain was said like, and I quote, "It is what it is," when they complained about it. So it's hard for us to wag our finger at the rest of the world for doing what they do when we're not really the shining city on the hill that a lot of people would like to say. I think the sooner we recognize our faults, the easier that we can get through to fixing a lot of them. It's honestly really sad to see like just people suffer in a country that's been called the best in the world or the richest in the world. And we're really not taking care of our people like we should, and it's now affecting how we can take care of other people, which I think a country called the richest one in the world should be doing at all points in time.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Man, now that I actually get to talk to Dylan, I'm blanking on all of my fucking foreign policy questions. When you have to engage with fucking tankies and Uyghur genocide talk, which I've had to do a couple of times, is there any way to adequately shut them down, or talk to them reasonably, or is this just like the Nazi conspiracy theorists that talk about Holocaust denial? Is it that same level, or do you think that there's any nuance to it?
I have said this a few times, and I always get blowback for this, but I compare people who are currently denying it and going online actively denying it, to the people who turned away the Jewish refugee boats when they were coming to American shores. They didn't kill them. They didn't, do it, but they facilitated and made it easier for the government to do their crimes against the minority against the Jewish people, or in this case, Uyghur Muslims. And I treat them most likely. I've said this in multiple terms. I believe people who spread this should be deplatformed. I don't believe they should have platforms. I treat them like Holocaust deniers. I don't want Holocaust deniers on Twitch. I don't want people who are denying the concentration camps in China right now on Twitch. These people are despicable. They're actively trying to deny one of the worst human rights abuses in the world, where over 1 million people are detained in concentration camps, and they're denying it, or they're making it sound like it's a good thing. Or like Kim Iverson, I remember her kind of thing. It's happening, but I mean, at least they're not blowing them up, as if the only two things you can do to Muslim minorities is kill them or throw them in camps, as if there's not an in between there. I mean, I remember when Bill.
Like people.
Yeah, I remember when Bill de Blasio monitored the Muslim community in New York City. That was disgusting. That was gross. Was that Bill de Blasio? No, that was Bloomberg. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When Bloomberg monitored the Muslim community in New York City, that's an in between. That's still bad, but that's an in between. You don't even need to go that hard. You know what? There's another thing you can do. It's called not throwing them in camps, not blowing them up, and just letting them live their lives. That's the other option, but that's of course a fantasy. So I personally treat them like Holocaust deniers. You should make it very evident how insane their position is. And I would say there's a few facts that I usually hit on quite hard if I have to. But usually my thing is, this person is like a Holocaust denier. And try to make everybody have that connection in their head. Because you're dealing with somebody who's a conspiracy theorist. And conspiracy theorists work effortlessly all the time to try to prove this conspiracy to themselves and others. So they've done almost always more research than you into things you just never would have thought of to look at, right?
Yep.
Like how you talk about, like, well, let's look at the mechanics of 6 million, right? Like, or well, let's talk about the actual chemicals that were used, or wait, but that actually just looks like a shower head, right? These are things that on the surface isn't the types of things you would be looking to if you wanted to like research proof of Holocaust. You'd look at documents, you'd look at this, you look at that, but they'll of course say that's fabricated, that's a lie. Now let me talk about shower heads. That's a similar way how it works with this. Now, there's a few things I hit on. The first big thing, which is kind of hard to argue against, is the fact that the Chinese government even denied the existence of these facilities in the first place. Now, personally, if I was doing a very large jobs program in a region, which that's what they're selling this as, it's a re-education jobs program to get people from terrorists to car manufacturers, basically. That's the idea. But if I was doing a program like that, where I could turn ISIS members into fucking, like, just working, participating members of society, hell, I'd be proud of something like that. So wouldn't you want to advertise something like that and be proud of it to the world if I was doing this massive jobs training program? So it's weird that they denied it. And they continued to deny it as satellite photographs of facilities with guard towers. By the way, I don't know a lot of jobs training program where there's people with guard towers and barbed wire that keep you in there. If I was to go apply to Walmart, I have a weird feeling there would be a guard tower just sprout up outside the facility as they tell me how to bag food, right? So it's weird that they denied it for so long until it was literally impossible. And once it was impossible to deny it anymore, they snapped into it. They were like, okay, actually, they do exist, but they're great. They're wonderful. So that's the first thing. Probably because they wanted to cover it up. Two, there have been government document leaks after government document leaks showing what President Xi thinks of the region and what should be done. He has said in speeches to officials in the region that you need to use the tools of dictatorship in Xinjiang, which doesn't sound like a lovely, flowery message to me. There's been examples of handbooks given to officials on how you treat returning students who are scared and concerned at why their family members are missing, and telling them that, like, hey, your actions could determine whether they get out quicker or later. Right? This like really foreboding stuff. All this stuff which has been accredited and shown to be true from multiple organizations expecting these documents. But at a certain point, as they continue to deny, or though the fact that China has not offered the United Nations a tour of facilities unrestricted, and when they did offer a tour, they kind of said, yeah, but you got to follow the rules of what that means. What does the rules of those engagement means? It means we'll show you them all clapping and chanting happy birthday, and we won't show you the back room. Or how they change up a facility before the inspectors went there, or the reporters went there, which is what happened with Reuters. But after you name all of this, I promise you they're probably not, most cases, if they're really up to that point, they're still going hard, they're not going to change their mind. Right. They don't care if they're in concentration camps. They care about being this kind of, well, America's worse, they're the geopolitical enemy, so I got to defend this person. I have a word for them. Some people call them tankies. The word I prefer is alternative imperialist or alt-imperialist. They care about empire so much, but they'll defend other empires to the death. It's just alternative imperialist.
I'll probably adopt that that same line of argumentation. I have more fun arguing against conservatives, or at least people that are reasonable. When I first started here, there was a lot of Nazi arguments because that's how lefties usually start on Twitch, because there's a lot of them for some reason here. But I only recently have started having to engage with tankies. So this is a whole new area for me. So that's very helpful. And again, like I was saying earlier, I like the idea of socialism, and if there's a step better than socialism, which people say communism is, I'd like to learn about it. But every time I get into a conversation that comes in that realm about communism or anarchism, the only people that I ever have that conversation with is tankies, and it drives me up the fucking wall.
Yeah. The thing is, tankies, when it comes to actual politics, are mostly irrelevant.
Oh,
But they, s- but they seem to be just spreading enough bullshit online to get people to believe them, and there's enough of them to the point where like there has to be work done to some extent to just prove the things they're saying. I think more of the time we should be going on the offensive when it comes to these issues. For example, if tankies become a problem in an online left community, rather than letting them take the thing and be like, well, what about this about the Soviet Union? What about this about the Soviet Union? What about this? And they talk about all these cool, like, flowery little statements. Do your best to kind of snap those out of the way and turn on them and like, what about these camps? What about the Holodomor? What about Stalin's mismanagement? What about the fact that I couldn't say critical things about the government until Gorbachev? What about the fact that I couldn't say that? What about the KGB? And you go on that offensive, right? And once they start getting into the whataboutisms, then you basically got them, right?
yeah.
And the,
See,
and
yes, I watched your tanky debate a couple of days ago. Because it was the day after I had my first argument with the tanky, and the line of the litmus test that you put out, something about Stalin. Did Stalin do the Holodomor?
yeah, that
Instantly,
thought is yeah.
immediately they were all like, "Well, I don't know if I could say that." Yeah. Immediately,
Yeah.
you have them.
Yeah,
I think
it was fun.
Yeah, go for it,
I
Charlie.
think one of the most important things is it's because a lot of these people who fall into this sort of like conspiracy, it's I think the only good reason for us like content creators to ever talk to people who ever do conspiracy is like after we're researched and read and then can just like smack down all of their points. And I think, Dylan, your point on going on the offensive is probably the best thing ever because once you just walk up and like, hey, you're a conspiracy theorist, why? Then they walk you down your little rabbit hole. It's like you walk onto a change my mind segment. All right. He has his talking points already. He knows what he's going to do. He knows these weird little things that he can put up to make him sound, make things to poke little holes, even though they're all superficial. You should really hit them on like the big things. Go over this and that, and you're not going to change their mind. They didn't reason themselves into that position very much, many times over. But it's good to show a lot of people, hey, this guy's full of shit. Look at him denying literal genocide. Look at him denying government overreach and a lot of the government cracking down on perfectly fine citizens who even have just like small disagreements with the government. Like these are the sorts of things that you should hit them on. And I think that's all like a really good idea.
A great example is, do any of you know who Ben Norton is by chance?
Oh, I've heard that name.
He's a Gray Zone reporter. Have you ever heard of the Gray Zone?
I've heard of the Gray Zone. Yeah.
I think I have.
The Gray Zone is a piece of shit website. Complete garbage. If it had a principle, it'd be how do we make America look bad and everybody else look amazing, right? I remember Ben Norton. He will constantly just stir shit, saying this about this group, this about that group, and it's not that he never makes good points, right? And that's the scary part. Is that sometimes he'll make good points, but then he'll like interweave it with dictator apologia or some of anything that's against America. He'll do his best to get on his knees and do some work. I'll say it in a polite way, right? But I remember finding footage of him in Venezuela, like being like, "Wow, this is just $1.75. I thought there was this huge crisis going on." Da, 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 da. But then you convert it and you figure out, but the average medium for like wages in this area was like $15. He left out that fact that would be that one piece of food would be such a large percentage of the average person's salary. Or then he went to like a mall and was like, look at all these people just sitting around and eating. It was a luxury mall in the middle of a country in an economic crisis, and he used rich people living the decent life, the good life, as an example. As Venezuela, it seems the government's faring quite well.
Don't they do that in North Korea? Like you walk into you walk in and you see all like the nice people and everything, the marches. Oh wow, it's so beautiful here. And then you don't turn down the wrong corner. You got a couple police officers there to stop you.
My probably the first couple of months that I was flirting with leftism, socialism, communism, whatever, I was part of a Facebook group where I was kicked out. Both me and my roommate right now, we were both kicked out of this group because we thought that maybe North Korea wasn't a good place. And I was so fucking taken aback that anyone could possibly believe that there was just that much propaganda, that they could believe that much propaganda was so fucking crazy to me that it pushed me away from leftism for probably another year, right? And I've come around to it again, but it's
Just
it's really crazy
yeah.
to me.
This happens all the time. A great example would be Gray Zone. After Soleimani was killed, they really played up the fact that Soleimani fought ISIS, and I'm like, wow, so did fucking everybody, dumbass. Literally everyone fought ISIS. If you weren't ISIS, you were fighting ISIS, unless you're Turkey. But if you weren't ISIS, you were fighting ISIS, right? So it's weird for them to compliment him on that and like talk about all the heroic things he did while also forgetting the fact that he helped sign a document that forced the government to go shoot protesters, his own government, or that he would continually defend the government that was mowing down Kurdish protesters. Weird. I wonder why the Kurdish community doesn't have a positive view of Soleimani or the groups that he funneled weapons to. Or what about child soldiers being reported in many of the groups he was working with? There's so much about him. And I was against the Soleimani killing. Everyone knows that. But I didn't have to go out and pretend Soleimani was some angel there to save the Middle East from American imperialism. He was the arm of a separate empire. Simple as that.
Here, really quick, Graugott is raring to go because we're talking about Marxist ideologies. So I'm going to drag him in really quick, okay?
I saw he looked a little wound up. I'm scared.
What's up, dudes?
Hello, sir.
Oh.
Alrighty. So my computer will explode
Right off the bat, USSR bad.
USSR bad. Yeah.
Stalin man bad. There you go. Easy. It's so easy, dude. I don't know why more leftists don't do this.
No, 100%. And really quick, just for chat, the only reason Grau's cam isn't activated is because if I have any more people in here with cam, my computer will melt. So I love his beautiful face, and we have a conversation after we're done here, and then you can see his beautiful face. But until then, just the limitations of my computer in the short term are killing me. But Grau, so you had some shit to say about Marxism, it seemed in the chat. So
no, like, here's the thing. I get really frustrated with like leftists sometimes because they're like, it feels like whenever like you get like MLs, like it feels like the majority of them, they tend to like the defense of the USSR to the point of like whole like genocide denial, like it's like a litmus test, and that's really bothersome because I really wish that we could get more comrades to believe in like communist ideas and like all these things that could potentially really benefit people on a whole. But like the genocide denial is just such bad optics, and like I don't believe that, first off, and I'm not even willing to like engage with people that are willing to do that because first off, it to even associate with them is super fucking toxic in terms of like your like the optics of it. So I don't know. Like the ideas of it could be beneficial. It's just that like every time like communism seems to like take hold, it's like done under this authoritarian regime, and it's really shitty, and I hate it.
yeah, one thing that I am pretty opposed to, I don't think that this is a particularly hot take, but if the viewers want to crucify me for it, then so be it. I don't really like authoritarianism, and so I think that the
On a Lukashenko stand, I'm out of here. I can't believe this.
I genuinely find the tankies, I do believe in leftist unity, but I do think that tankies to me are on par with the Nazis that we see on Twitch, at least insofar as genocide denial and how fucking bad
takes.
faith they argue in. Right now, there are some people. We were looking at that tier list that someone made, but I don't know how much I can trust that tier list because they forgot to add me into it. And so, but there are some people on there that I think are people that I want to talk to that are MLs or tankies or whatever, that as far as I know, don't often argue with bad faith, like milk tea Leninism. I could be wrong on that, of course, but like I want to engage with these people, and see where they're coming from. I don't think that they could ever convince me of anything, but I think at least the conversation would be fun. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out. Oh shit! Fuck me.
So like if you had the opportunity to talk to her, would you talk to her?
Probably, yeah. I would probably talk again, and I've said this several times. I really want to learn about all these different political ideologies, even if I disagree with them. I find these conversations incredibly fascinating.
Mhm.
I don't understand communism. I don't understand anarchism, or Stalinism, Leninism. I am not going to read theory. I just will never find it interesting, you know. But if I can just get like a crash course in it from someone that isn't arguing in super shitty faith and isn't a total piece of shit, I think that I would. I think that I would value the conversation at least. And if they say something super fucked up, I can push back against it, right?
Mhm.
And I feel, especially after my 10-day internet break, where I just got to listen to different things, and I feel more prepared now because I got some time to study and how to make arguments and stuff. I feel more prepared now to have these conversations with people that I don't think I would have in the past.
I'm more in for like more cooking streams, to be honest. Cooking streams are the best streams.
Those are
Hey,
fun.
if I can do a cooking stream now that I have Wi-Fi again, I will do a cooking stream. I'll make another poll on Twitter, and people can vote on what I should cook. Seems like people really
One
like the idea of shrimp scampi.
1 second. Hey
Yeah.
Luca in chat. Well, communism could help people, but it seems to never do. Don't you think it's really interesting that, people say that they love capitalism, but for some reason it always devolves into, cronyism? Don't you think that's really interesting? Just a thought.
Well, like, not for all of like the failures that it had, and for all of like the violence that occurred to get to this point, the USSR did do some good stuff in terms of like giving people the ability to have an education, in terms of like quality of nutrition, um, and like the fact that they had housing. So like there were some accomplishments and there was also like great scientific achievements that they did, especially with the space race. So the USSR, even though it was like shit tier in terms of like how it got there, like it did some good.
I liked it when they put a dog in space.
Yeah,
The dog died though.
We don't talk about that part.
yeah. Rest in peace.
R.I.P. in pieces. See, and also my entire life, it's always been the Red Scare education kind of stuff. And I think that there are cool things that we can take away from individual regimes, individual things that maybe we can try and do better here that no one is willing to listen to. So I think that's also a cool thing that we can talk about. But I in general, I just don't find any value in really diving deep into Stalinism myself.
Oh hell no. Yeah, fuck Stalin. Oh my god. No, but I don't know. I think it's kind of hard to like responsibly advocate for some of like for communism at the moment when there's so much other fucked up shit. It's just more interesting to talk about in terms of like the abstract, rather than like the how do we actually implement these things, because there's so much things that we can do in terms of like boots on the ground action, when it comes to like local advocacy for just like improving your local community, that like I don't necessarily know that if it's more or less like we should talk about these so that they become at least a little bit more commonplace in public discourse rather than fringe. But I don't necessarily think that they should be the bread and butter of leftist politic.
Yeah, no.
What do you think should be the bread and butter?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
Community aid, like local direct action. So for instance, getting really involved with like what's going on in your community in terms of like mayoral elections, in terms of like judge elections, in terms of your sheriff elections, in terms of like whatever local events goes on, because like I think one of the main tenets of leftism that I mean people should take away from it is that like you participate in elections whenever you can, but you also like try and be a part of the community whenever you can. So dual power structures.
Sounds great. I mean, honestly, I think that for like all of Kyle Kalinski's problems, I think he got us, pretty, as far as we can get with a dual power structure right now with Justice Dems. Honestly, I think I think it's an amazing thing that really got so many good politicians in the office at the moment. It's doing more work, and other groups just like that, like Our Revolution. I think they're doing great things.
Yeah, one of the things that like I think is really great is like, especially with like Bernie after he got like so much traction in 2016, is that there was like a lot of like grassroots selections that happened on the local level. And the thing is that like if you actually want to get like some of the more radical policies done, you need to have like grassroots supports on the local levels to kind of feed into these larger elections. Right now, that structure just does not exist. So as if we can start creating the structure now, that would be great for bigger things in the future.
Yeah, honestly.
Really quick, I wanna circle back to what me and Shark were talking about right before we got super tangential, and then Dylan hopped on. I'd like to hear y'all two's opinion. And Grau, you were on this panel that this question originated from. It was on Prime K's, and the question was, is Trump an existential threat? And I felt like there was a lot that could have been said that wasn't said. And I was cringing in my boots because I really wanted to jump in, but there was no internet. And I didn't think to use phone Discord for that because I didn't think that it would be good. But what would you guys say in general to that? And then after I get y'all's general take, I want to narrow the question.
I'm gonna be honest. I was reading a funny comic with birds on it. Could you say it one more time?
Yeah. The first question is Trump an existential threat?
Oh, I believe he's the biggest existential threat to the United States it's faced in the last 20 years.
All right, that's about the take that I have too.
Wait, since like George Bush, what you say?
More.
Like George W. Bush would be like the last existential threat. I'm just curious what the point of reference is.
More than
More?
Bush.
Okay.
More. Easy.
And Grau, you agree with that basically in general?
Oh hell yeah, dude! Dude's put in so many like lifetime appointed judges. Like the ripple effects from the Trump presidency are going to be felt. And if you give him a second fucking term, like game over, man. Like it's so bad. What the ripple effects will be, and we'll have to fight such a losing battle.
Yeah, imagine RBG like dying or having to step down, and then him getting a third Supreme Court pick.
Disgusting.
Imagine. Yeah, and like, hasn't he ruined so many of our international relations with so many other countries?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we got to think about like Trump is somebody who has on the campaign trail advocated for killing the families of terrorists, bombing civilians, just open bombing civilians, right?
Active war crimes.
This is somebody who, while in office, threatened to bomb Iranian cultural sites, which the Pentagon had to distance itself from because that is a war crime. This is somebody who is a huge advocate for torture, right? Talks about roughing up protesters, has by his own orders roughed up protesters and press to get photo ops by the White House. This is someone who backstabbed the Kurds for zero strategic gain just to suck up to Erdogan, which let 12,000 martyrs die in vain in the fight against ISIS and expanded the war in Syria. This is someone who, against a bipartisan vote to end the supplying of arms to Saudi Arabia to continue its brutal, endless war in Yemen, which has no way of winning, and they need to come to the table to make a peace deal. Instead of going with bipartisan consensus with Republican Mike Lee and Bernie Sanders and the rest of them, he vetoed the legislation. But still, Republicans, for some whatever reason, Republicans online like to pretend like he's the anti-war president. He is somebody who ramped up bombing in Afghanistan and dropped the mother of all bombs on Afghanistan. Right? While is also going to pull out of Afghanistan with a peace deal that is creaky as all hell and probably will lead, in my opinion, sadly, there's a good chance there could lead to a Taliban victory, right? Even though I want to leave Afghanistan, we need to leave with a decent fucking peace deal, at least give it the best shot possible. He is somebody who has approved of the Chinese concentration camps full of Uyghur Muslims in China behind closed doors and didn't want to bring it up during trade negotiations, as he later revealed publicly. He is somebody who talked about releasing fire and fury on North Korea. Later, went back to being buddy-buddy, and later went back to go fucking insane on them. And his offer to North Korea was basically Lamau won a McDonald's when it comes to economic incentives, right? This is somebody who got the Syrian Kurds mixed up with the Iraqi Kurds while talking to the Iraqi Kurds in the KRG, and showed he had no semblance of the situation, yet he was the same person who made the monumental decision to backstab the Kurds. He's the person who tore up the JCPOA, threw it out the window, left the Paris Climate Agreement, got us out of the INF nuclear arms treaty with Russia. This is somebody who was this close to declaring the cartels a terrorist organization, which could lead to us taking decisive military action in Mexico. This is somebody who, I mean, I could go on and on and on about why I think he's a bigger threat. Or, of course, the Soleimani killing, almost bombing Iran over the shooting out of the drone, maximum pressure failing. We just found out that they're going to be putting a nuclear reactor in the mountains. Oh, of course, his Middle East. Oh, by the way, people like to talk about Biden and his kid a lot. What about the fact that Jared Kushner is the person who designed the Middle East peace deal?
Isn't Jared Kushner in charge of what, like 50 things or something in his like
Jared
weird
Kushner
role?
has no experience in foreign policy, yet he's the one who's supposed to design the Middle East peace plan, one of the most complicated regions of the world. He's the one who's going to solve the Palestine-Israel conflict. Are you kidding me? Kiss my ass.
Come on, Dylan. You know this is all Trump derangement syndrome, right?
Yeah, it's Trump derangement syndrome.
So,
No, he's completely right. Also, someone clip that. We need to use that anytime a conservative comes in the chat and says that Trump is a non-war president. Like when you shows that picture,
I'm not even done on that. Let me finish a few more on that one if we're going to talk about war president. Here's another one.
Oh, no.
Trump they like to bash like Obama about the intervention in Libya. Biden has actually talked about how behind closed doors, by the way, he was against the intervention in Libya, but we would be taking him on his word on that one. But Trump declared publicly how we had to go into Libya and strike hard on Gaddafi. So he was in favor of intervening in Libya. He was also in favor of invading Iraq. This is something that people forget all the time. Trump was in favor of invading Iraq. So the things that people hate Biden for when it comes to foreign policy. One, it's kind of shaky whether he was in complete support of it, and the other one, but Trump was in support of both of them. So it's like if you're somebody who's like, well, I'm not going to vote for Biden because of foreign policy, then you look at there's so much more that Trump has done worse in foreign policy than Biden. It's not even close. What about the fact that they've eliminated transparency when it comes to drone strikes, and it's no longer public information? The type of attacks we're doing in the Middle East, removing a lot of transparency, and when it comes to the effects our war is having on the region, there's so much more Trump has done that's worse. I mean, trust me, I do not like the Obama-Biden administration's policy on whistleblowers. I'm somebody who believes Edward Snowden should be given a fucking medal, but Trump has publicly gone on witch hunts to take out whistleblowers who go through the correct processes, and has made it a thing about how whistleblowers are like weak and bad
like
and
traitors to the nation.
Exactly. Here's somebody who goes actively attacks the press. What about the fact that he retweeted somebody who said white power in a video? I mean, there's so much I could go into.
Wait,
he called LC.
Dylan,
Yeah.
You know what he didn't do, right? The one thing that I wish he did do. Remember how we got like double penetrated by these two hurricanes in the south? Why the fuck didn't he just nuke them?
Yeah,
like why didn't he fucking nuke these hurricanes, man? Like I would have really appreciated not having rain for a couple days.
We should have just dropped Sweet and Steve down there. That would have been
Oh yeah, that's right. We should have done that.
But he called El-Sisi his favorite dictator, to the horror of Egyptian diplomats. Or what about him backing up Saudi Arabia after the Jamal Khashoggi killing with arms? With arms.
That's like an act of war. Holy shit.
There's so much. I don't know if it's an act of war to back them up during the Jamal Khashoggi. Oh, you mean what they did?
No, I thought you were talking about the reporter that got killed in Saudi Arabia.
No. I am talking about Saudi Arabia killed a reporter. I don't know if it would be, if you could call it an act of war, because Russia has killed like people within British territory and other territory. Like assassinations are kind of a thing, and it's bad, but they should have gotten some response.
Like some
they
slap,
got basically
some like
nothing,
retaliation.
nothing. If anything, they got rewarded with more arms deal when it comes to Yemen to help fund a separate slaughter, which has killed, what was it, over 90,000 children under the age of 5 has been killed by the Saudi blockade. And that's not even including like bombs being dropped. That's just the blockade. Also, he has Elliot Abrams in his administration still, and he had John Bolton in his administration.
I remember I read a story about John Bolton literally mixing up a couple of acronyms to Trump so he could have permission to go do some like bombings or something.
What a little liar, dude. What a
remember.
Weasley
Oh,
little
here's
fucking
here's the
liar.
story.
Liar.
So Erdogan's talking to Trump, and he's basically there's this thing from Turkish nationalists. They believe the PKK is the same thing as the YPG in Syria. It's absurd. It's not true. There's connections, but they're not the same thing. It's for them to say it's the same thing is a lie, right? Or for it to say it's the Kurdish branch of the PKK, also a lie, right? The closest connection you can get to is the KCK, which doesn't make it a branch of the PKK. Anyway, nobody has any clue what I just said, but don't worry about it. All you need to know is the PKK and the YPG are not the same thing. Okay?
All right.
So, Erdogan goes to him, and you know what I just did with all the acronyms? He basically went like, so the PKK, is the YPG, which the YPJ, the SDF, then you look at, but this is the KRG over here that's unrelated. Da, da, da. You just go through a ton of acronyms.
Sign this paper.
And then Trump was like, wow, man, it looks like he has a point. And everybody else was looking at like, what the fuck are you talking about? And basically just like played like a dramatic video with like these murdering Kurds, basically. Like played it like, and that was enough for Trump to be convinced.
The real shame, like, I don't know this has probably been brought up before, but like the fact that we had to reduce his briefs down to like a single page, one-sided notes is insane with
his name on
pictures.
it.
With his name. It's insane. I don't get how it's like worse than Reagan. It's genuinely worse than Reagan when it comes to like how dumb he is. It's
I remember
insane.
when I was in high school, I was like just out of high school or in my senior year. I remember I read a story about how Trump, when he was in the briefings in the transition period with Obama, and he was like, "Why can't we just drop nukes?" And like he just posed the question. He was like, "Why can't we just drop nukes?" And they had to like slowly and calmly tell him why dropping nukes is probably not a good idea. And he just they still
He
weren't
was
sure if it really
unconvinced.
like
I'm gonna be debating someone on that soon. I know a neocon that believes we should nuke North Korea and Iran. It's gonna be
Wait.
Oh shit. Wait, what?
Wait.
his name's Kevin Castley. It's gonna be a hell of a conversation.
How are these people real? How are they
Um,
real?
He's on a YouTube called Superpower Broadcasting. If you want to check him out, he
Oh,
also
shit.
has recently taken a hard right turn, and he's been listening to Atheism is Unstoppable, and he's been making some hot takes on BLM terrorists. By the way,
I'm starting to believe that these people only exist just to torture us. I'm really starting. Also, I can't escape AIU. AIU gave me like my original like big boost when he made a video on Ahmaud Arbery, and that he was literally like, the real problem isn't anything that went on here. The real problem is black crime. And like, dude, you're just like for profiling. He made a 2-hour video yelling at me, and then he called me racist.
Ahmaud Arbery was literally just fucking lynched. Let's not play.
Yeah,
That's what
he
happened,
was.
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
I was actually thinking like a few days ago, like I wanted to bring up the fact that he was lynched, but I forgot his name, right? And I was thinking like, well, how many names are there? And I was like going through trying to go through all the names. I got like Philando Castile, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery. By the way, really funny how the NRA didn't take a huge fucking stand on Philando Castile. It's almost like they don't give a fuck because he's a black man.
Really interesting.
Really interesting. But the Ahmaud Arbery story is literally, by definition, a lynching. It is a lynching. And if that anti-lynching legislation would have passed, it would have been covered by that legislation. And it's just something that was just kind of like, just kind of passed away. Now we don't even fucking talk about it. That man was lynched.
Mhm.
That's against all the stories that are now coming out about people just found hanging in trees. It's all
I
suicide.
remember there was a really big story like locally. It was in like the Kentuckiana area. I think it was like in like southern Indiana. They were literally this like group of like rednecks captured this black guy and was literally trying to hang him. They were trying to break his arms and trying to like hang him. And then they had to like a group of people surrounded them to try and get them to stop. And then they called the police, and the police took them into custody and then let them go. And that didn't get
I
any
remember
news
that
coverage.
story. I remember that. Yeah, I do remember watching the footage of that.
Yeah, it didn't even go anywhere. It was crazy. They actually just tried to kill someone.
That's really fucking depressing. Jesus Christ.
And this is why we have to play video games. You know, intermittent the politics segments.
It's safer inside, I guess.
Yeah.
I really can't wait until I have enough viewership on average to just sit back and play some fucking video games and not have to worry about really paying attention to what the fuck is going on, you know?
Good.
Jesus Christ.
I want
Dog, in my
I'm waiting
backyard.
for partner. I'm just waiting for partner to fucking finish.
Yo, you've
I'm
been
ready
like
to
killing
grill.
it, Dylan.
Dylan's ready to grill.
But a girl so bad.
Like, dude, I can't ignore it because like literally in my backyard, like there was like in Lafayette, right? There was a guy who got shot like 2 weeks ago. That like got like 11 shots in the back, holding a knife, and he was like having a mental breakdown. And like just recently, there was some 16-year-old kid that was getting beaten up by some cop, and he's like a security resource manager or security resources officer at like a middle school. And it's like, dude, this is why, like, I guess maybe like my perception of like living in Louisiana has like warped my perception of like how much we should focus on like local action. But yeah, I guess that's why I advocate so heavily for it. Because like shit's so fucked. Like in your backyard, shit's fucked.
I really need to be sold on this direct action praxis shit before ahead of local elections and stuff, because I never hear that included in this praxis stuff. I'm interested in lefty stuff like that, but you know, I do want to expand that question that I asked initially though. So there was, is Trump an existential threat? But the question that I really wanted, and I was really hoping that you would bring it up, but I think that it got like derailed in that panel to Civil War talk.
The Tim Pool special.
Yeah. Well, no, literal, like the actual Civil War that happened. But do you think that the thing that I didn't hear anyone say was Trump being an existential threat to leftist politics or just the left in general?
He's willing to use military force on protests. Yeah, like, I mean, and he's explicitly stated that. So like if leftists ever try and do anything like in the streets, like he's not going to be above just like saying like these people are terrorists, anarchists are willing to destroy the fabric of America. You know, fuck them, let's arrest them and kill and like beat them up or whatever. So
I really want to do a stream talking about how calling Antifa terrorists and Black Lives Matter terrorists is one of the most dangerous possible things the Trump administration is doing right now. Because what that means, dude, the type of things that could mean in legal terms for what is allowed to do as non-combatants. Oh, dude, no, I can't. It's too scary to think about that.
He wants to send femboys to Gitmo, dude. It's true. It's finally coming.
Wait, like, are we making femboy hooters at Gitmo?
Yes, we are. Well, Trump is. He's
Damn.
trying. That's my president right there.
Oh,
but no,
shit.
like the idea of literally naming
going to Cuba for femboy hooters sounds like a time.
Hey, man, you know,
like his naming his political opponents literal terrorists is crazy, and now it's activated his like base to think we're in a war zone. We have to go, and now they're pushing hard for these militias that are going out to just gun people down.
Wait, Dylan, chat's asking what defines a terrorist organization. How would you define it?
That's a really hard question. Is also why I think it's dumb.
It's an incredibly hard question to answer. Even people that are really, really deep into studying terrorism don't have a solid definition.
But let me tell you that
I'm going to run to the restroom.
Yeah, but let me just make it very clear that throwing a brick at a cop does not make you a terrorist. Okay? Or part of a terrorist organization, right? Throwing a water bottle at a cop doesn't make you that. It's a lot more complicated than that. If it was as simple as that, then the Hong Kong protesters would be terrorists. Some Belarusian protesters. Hey, some Belarusian protesters have rushed cops. Are they terrorists now? Are we gonna call them terrorists? Let's be consistent with this.
Or like
language.
people in Hong Kong.
Yeah, no, that would be that's the one I always challenge them on. It's like, no, that's different. And it's like, how is it different? I could show you footage of one lighting a person on fire. I could show you one of throwing a brick that hit an old man in the head and killed him. Well, they terrorists now? They all terrorists? They part of a terrorist organization led by Joshua Wong? It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous standard, and it's specifically designed to demonize them to the point where any use of force used against them is justified. And it's kind of this kind of rising of Kyle Rittenhouse to this kind of otherworldly like sanctum the far right has kind of done with him is an example of that, because they're all terrorists. So all he did was kill terrorists. Don't worry about it.
Don't think about it.
Just complete self-defense, just killing terrorists like any God-fearing American would. He's just defending his homeland. You know, Trump told me to. It has to be true.
And eventually, when there's not even examples of people when there's just examples of people just mowing the protesters down, period, no provocation, no skateboard, no nothing. What are you gonna hear from the online right? What's gonna be the statement?
Dylan,
they're terrorists.
Let me try and pin this down. Maybe you'll disagree with this definition, but I'll try. Why don't you say that it's militaristic violence against civilians in the name of like some sort of ideology or philosophy, I guess.
Getting closer, but then there's also the question of, can a state be a terrorist organization or a terror state or states? Well, then there's also the question of state sponsors of terror. For example, when North Korea blew up two jetliners, blew up a jetliner that was carrying people to the Olympics, was that terrorism? But the North Korean state did it. They didn't even sponsor any. They got two agents to go blow up a plane with civilians on it. Is that terrorism?
Well, it would be an act of terrorism by the state, but the actual individuals would be terrorists. Not to be pedantic here, but like. But
then is the state of North Korea a terrorist organization?
Fuck.
Call the whole country like a
I'm gonna have
country.
to do a whole stream on this because this is really complicated and a lot of people argue about this all the time. I would probably just use international law to kind of define it. I think that's probably the best bet, but it's really complicated. And that's why when people ask me what my definition of terrorist org is, it'll sometimes change because like it's ever changing. But I will tell you, BLM is not a terrorist organization. If BLM is a terrorist organization, then
so isn't the NAACP.
Literally any movement that's ever had a member like attack another person or like throw a brick is then a terrorist.
What about those militias that show up to like courthouses? You know, back when the whole lockdown started, like the anti-mask protesters, when they literally showed up to. I remember here in Kentucky. I don't know if you guys think of Kentucky too much, but I've started to get a little bit more into Kentucky politics. I remember they showed the militia group, the anti-mask militia group, showed up outside of the governor's mansion, chanting, "Come out, Bashir! Come out, Bashir!" with like guns and like. Armor and everything, and then they hung an effigy of him from like 100-year-old oak tree in front of the Capitol. It's like his face on like a stuffed like a doll, and they hung it from the tree. There is that terrorism? It could be.
Anyway, yeah, terrorism is really hard to define, and that's why it's going to take me a while. But eventually, I'm going to do a stream on it.
We got to be ready for that.
Yeah.
Dude, I love Kentucky. Kentucky is like I miss going up there. I really want to go back there for some bourbon. Like on a lighter note, sorry.
No, it's no problem. I just turned 21 in January, so I haven't had any bourbon yet. Usually I just get off stream and then finish like half a bottle of New Amsterdam and then go to bed. But I'll definitely have to try that some. If you come up, maybe we could try sometime.
Hell yeah. I'm in.
See, the only good whiskey I've had is real Texan bourbon. So Maker's Mark, you gotta get that shit. Fucking don't at me. Kentucky can eat shit. They have a much better climate than Texas, but you know.
No, but like you literally go south and you have Tennessee, and like Tennessee's that. It was like so good.
Yeah. So I'm trying.
I don't trust Tennessee. It's like Long, Texas.
It's like Long, Texas.
My bad. Yeah, it's like it is. It's like Long, Texas. It's not cool.
All right. Well, hey, I have a conversation with Grau that I'm supposed to have, and I can.
What were we supposed to talk about?
Well, there's two options, and you guys are welcome to stick around for it if Grau is cool with that.
I don't care.
Yeah. So there were two conversations. I think only one they would be interested in. So you were streaming in the politics Discord, which by the way, I need to ask you how to do that shit because I would fucking love that shit.
Talk to Doobie. Doobie would help you out with that.
Okay. I think I shot him a DM, but I don't know if he knows me. So
I don't trust that Discord.
You don't trust that Discord?
Dude,
I don't know,
that
it's too
Discord,
many-
like, okay, it's
too
like
many
either
guys.
incredibly good or incredibly bad. There's like no in between.
All I know is that when I went there to do a Q&A, I was asked a lot of questions about Israel.
Oh, no.
Shit.
Dog, but
I-
like dunking on Nazis though is so much fucking fun.
I really want to. I really like the idea of being the single lefty on a conservative panel. I think that sounds really fun. But
Oh, you want to go the Destiny route?
I think that would be real fun. But you were on that Discord and you were talking about justice systems in an anarcho-communist society.
Sure.
And I had a lot of issues with it, and I've been thinking about that a lot. So you're
Okay.
as far as I can remember, your take was our justice system, or at least in the society, your perfect society, would be incredibly empathetic, which is cool and chill.
Restorative
But-
justice versus punitive.
Right. But
Uh-huh.
at some point, and maybe I'm attributing what someone else said to you, but there was a take where it basically amounted to exile, where if someone just can't be restored, instead of putting them to death or keeping them in jail forever, you just send them off to an island.
Well, what is prisons besides exile? Like in current day America, like what are prisons except for exile?
Well, it's a holding place for people that have committed crimes, whereas exile, I would say, is jettisoning someone out of an area, disenfranchisement, complete disenfranchisement from a society, from a country, or whatever an anarcho-communist society is.
For example, right? If you look at our current day prisons, like, okay, so if you look at like pre-legal systems, right? Typically, if someone were to like fuck around the community, and the community's like, we don't want you here no more, you're exiled, they would just leave that community. But with the like current legal system, right, instead of like exile, they use the prison system as a form of like justice, as like this as like a new place of exile. So I mean, you would kind of have prison systems, I guess, but like the hope being is that, like, since people's material needs, like material conditions, are fulfilled, you wouldn't necessarily need it that much, but you would try and create as ethical of a jail as possible, I guess. I don't, because like
Right.
because people, like, I don't know, people do stupid things for whatever reasons, like murder, or like, I don't know, like you'll still probably have like serial killers at some point, because sometimes people are just crazy. But I guess that would be the idea, is that like you would be able to create these places where they're excommunicated from society, but they still are ethically treated, I guess. I don't know.
I don't see. Here's my problem. So there's
Mhm.
there's punitive justice, which is essentially just retribution, right? I don't think
Yeah.
I'm on board with that. Retribution doesn't really solve any societal problems. It's just kind of it's cathartic, right?
Yeah, it's catharsis. Yeah.
Yeah, and which is why I'm really against the death penalty. In addition to all the other problems, it doesn't fucking help anything. And there's restorative justice, where we fix the person, and implying that they need to be fixed, but we teach them how to interact with society in a better way, right?
Yeah.
And
Or we teach them how to deal with like their issues like better.
right. So if someone doesn't conform, I guess, or doesn't reform, then it's essentially just a life in prison sentence, right?
Yeah. Like,
But-
and honestly, like, this is like, here's the problem though, is that like, honestly, I wouldn't like, and I know this might sound like a bit of cop out, because I understand, like, this is just like how I would theoretically think of society. And like, honestly, there would be like a bunch of successive steps to see where we are before we start removing these systems. Because like my need for a prison is somewhat informed by my idea that there might still be crime, which there may possibly not be. But because hopefully we'll be able to treat people in society to the point where they can go see therapy and they can like make more rational decisions and be more empathetic towards one another, maybe to the point where the crimes of passion are no or things of the past. But I honestly don't know how we would institute within the society. The other thing that what was I thinking about? Like, I don't know. I know that it's really an issue for some people, but like sometimes you can still have like a prison system where like the main purpose is to try and rehabilitate people to the point where they can re-enter society. A lot of the Nordic countries take this approach, and it seems to be really successful when it comes to what does it mean to go back to jail again? What's that word?
Recidivism.
Yeah.
Yeah, recidivism rate. So like it tends to do wonders when it comes to that. And typically the prisoners have a better overall experience when it comes to their impact and role in society. So maybe that's like the justice system that you have. But yeah, I would like to move to a society where like prison systems become sort of this niche thing that are required, but not necessarily the biggest aspect of society like they are today, I guess.
I think a big step towards that would be moving towards like what they have in the UK, or not specifically the UK. We don't like to talk about Brit bongers here. Or yeah, that's what I'm saying. Or like the EU in general. A lot of their prisons, they get Xboxes, they get TVs, they get newspaper, they get free education, they get to vote, they get healthcare, they get all of these great things, and they're still a part of society. They're not taken away and thrown into solitary confinement for 12 years. They are still part of the community. They get mental health training, mental health professionals to go in and talk to them. It's much more of something that's to improve these people's lives, to put them back into society, so they can hit the ground running. Where here we throw someone in jail for like 10 years when
because of like mandatory minimums for a drug.
Yeah, and we treat them like animals, and they become animals, and their mental health deteriorates, and then we drop them on the sidewalk with $100 and say, well, see you later, see you in a year, and then they end up back in jail.
Yeah,
so I think it's a lot of go ahead.
Sorry, a lot of the issues that I tend to have with the prison system is that the goal of them is not necessarily to like build these better people. Like people might say that, right, where it's like the goal is like you do the crime, you pay the time or whatever, and it's like some sort of like moral obligation to do this time, but like you're essentially just like set alone with your thoughts, and you're not really taught anything as a result of it. And is that really better than like giving someone the coping skills to deal with it and like destigmatizing the fact that they've gone to jail? I guess I don't know.
It's like the adult version of putting them in timeout.
Pretty much, like, except like they just lose every single aspect of their lives.
Yeah, that, and also because of that, it was something I learned not too long ago. That also is helping spike the single parenthood, especially with males going to jail, because they go to jail and then a lot of they feel emasculated, and then they go try to connect with their families, and a lot of those connections are often unsuccessful, and then they sink into depression and stuff, commit more crime, and then the kids grow up without a parent, so they grow up with one parent, and then that obviously leads to the knowing cycle that we all talk about.
Well, actually got to head out.
Like okay, man. Well, thank you for coming on.
No problem.
I am really looking forward to seeing what your take was on Belarus with Vosh. I think that's something that I'm not hearing a whole lot of here. So
how'd that go, by the way?
It went good, and I did another stream on Belarus today, where I read some documents from Amnesty International and watched a really good documentary on it. Awesome.
Yeah,
see you guys later.
Yeah, catch you later, buddy.
Bye, Dylan. I like Dylan. I was gonna be like, thank you so much. I was gonna tell him how like crazy it was for him to just be here. Just seeing his camera, I was like, whoa, this is real. Because when you see them with like thousands of viewers or whatever, you're like, well, okay, this is it's on my screen. But when he's actually in here, it's a really weird feeling to just see someone that big just come on. Even though relative to our size, he's pretty
Shark,
big.
I've
Let's
never
go.
met you before. Do you go on panels at all?
I've never been on a panel before.
You really should.
Tiberius,
You would do really well on them, I think.
oh, I appreciate. I feel like I'm big enough now that I can make a splash. I can do some memes and then maybe parlay that into something. I thought it'd be fun to talk to people, but I have Tiberius DM'd me out of nowhere once before, and then he asked me to be on a panel, but then he never hit me back up. He was like, "Let me see what my chat says," and then never hit me back up. So like, okay, well,
Just like jump onto Prime's panel tonight. Like literally, like I've gotten all my followers because I literally just hopped onto Prime's panel and just started like talking shit. Like,
oh damn,
that's literally how I started off.
I love kicking up dirt.
I really need to go onto his panel more. I feel like when I go on there, there's so much agreement that I can't really flourish because I don't want to shit on someone's opinion that is the same as mine. And maybe it's just the times that I've been on there hasn't been a whole lot of contention, but I think that's one reason why I really want to go onto an all conservative panel, because I really like getting angry. It's very fun, especially on Twitch. But
yeah,
fucking like if CTV or Redneck or one of them types is on there, like, oh my god.
Yeah, see, here's my thing. When I go into a panel and it's all lefties and then one conservative, I feel like shit dunking on them as well, because I don't
not that fun.
Yeah, I don't like dogpiling. I don't care if I get dogpiled though. It's more fun for me. And if I get dogpiled, then I have more leeway to do ad homs, which I don't.
Lashing out is
with.
always so fun. Like criticize.
Yes.
Oh man, the ad homs. Oh, they're so fun. And you sprinkle them in a little bit of embellishment while you're just proving them wrong. Woo, that's a tasty little sandwich right there. Also, I didn't mention it, but why do all of us have so much damn hair?
Hold on, Samantha Banana in the chat. You know, you're like a food, so you're like soft, squishy, and I can eat you. So there you go. Mm-hmm. Boom, roasted. You got dunked on.
We got Vor.
Boom.
She's been talking a lot in chat. If she wants to hop in, you're more than welcome to.
Sure.
Also, I need to fucking if either of you guys have Internax's Discord number, I need to message him because he's not being able to join my Discord. Like he's banned, but he's not on my ban list. So
what'd you do this for, man?
I don't know. I've never really engaged with him. Past one time where I called him a Nozball for yucks, and he sent his fan base out.
Hold on.
Did you hear like the problems between like, him and Benzel?
Right. Here, 1 second. Let me pull in this person. What did you say?
Like him, apparently him and Benzel have been having a little spat. Benzel's been taking a couple shots.
I don't know that person.
Benzel Morphine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I do know him. Yeah. 1 second.
No.
Let me move my.
Ender's memes are excellent though. Like his takes are so cringe sometimes. Love him though, but like, goddamn, he was ranting today about like technology and people's addiction to technology, and I'm like, goddamn, come on, Ender.
All right, Samantha Banana. Because I do not know you, I have to give you the general rules. Just nothing that's gonna get me TOS'd, and then also any soundboard noises that come out of you, immediate ban, because I don't have patience for that.
Okay, real quick, because I'm kind of new. Yeah, I'm a trans person. I threw you off. I saw that face. It's okay. I don't know soundboard. What?
Oh,
define
no.
What are your pronouns, by the way? I'm sorry.
She, her. Yeah.
She, her. Okay.
It's all good.
And daddy. Is that true? Or is that a joke?
That depending on who you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, no, I don't know what soundboard is. I'm not like a troll. I'm not like a Trump person. I'm not like a QAnon weirdo or Alex Jones person. I tend to fall in the middle politically. So like I said, trans person, but I'm also a veteran.
Centrism.
And I support, Second Amendment stuff, but then, I have to deal with progressive people in my area hating me because I'm a veteran, or I support Second Amendment rights when I'm just like, you should too.
Hey, fucking lips.
To everybody. And then the right hates me because I'm a queer tranny. So that's kind of not fun. I don't really fit in anywhere politically. So I just
You
kind of
fit
go
right in
everywhere.
with the left, mind you. Like,
Yes, you
there's
do.
a lot of like there's like a lot of like trans and queer veterans that I know that exist on the left space. And like the thing is, like the farther left you go, the more they love guns too. So like your Second Amendment rights are perfectly fine with us.
Yeah. Well, no, I understand. I mean, I've seen you over on Primes, and I think I was in there I was in there last night, and
Mhm.
I mean, I come off as controversial not because I'm trying to be a troll or a jerk, but because I don't like the hypotheticals and the what ifs and what ifs because that doesn't
Mhm.
apply. We live in the real world,
Oh yeah.
so
No.
And I see a lot of people calling themselves especially these days with some of my like less political or non-political friends. They call themselves like moderates or centrists when they're
I,
like, oh yeah, sure, I'm for like getting corporations out of elections and like this and that and environmentalism and but I really like guns and so I'm a centrist. I'm like, no, you're so close. You're
I
so
use that
close.
term. I
Just put
use
the
that term
pieces
just because it's
together.
the closest
You can
thing
do it.
people can like it's the closest thing people can identify with my views because not everybody knows all these broad terms. There's so many political terms you can use for somebody's beliefs or morals or where they stand on that spectrum, but not everybody knows these things. When like I'm just whatever. Sure, I'm a centrist libertarian. I voted for Gary Johnson, and I hate everybody in this current election, um, and it's a joke.
So like I think this is the important thing. I understand that like for you, like here's the thing. I think that a lot of people have like some sort of society that they think is achievable in their lifetimes, and some people have like an ideal society. So if we had like your achievable, like it sounds like you're not interested in the ideal. So what is your achievable society that you would like to see in your lifetime?
Well, it's a combination of some socialist policies. For like healthcare, I'm going to bring in that like that is a good socialist policy with the healthcare for everybody, not
Mhm.
affordable healthcare for everybody, healthcare for everybody. And that little part of that little comes from me being military. I never had to worry about my healthcare because I would just go to the on post thing, get a doctor. That was that. Never had to worry about a bill. And I would like to see equal rights for everybody. Obviously, as a gay trans person, cool. I would love equal rights for everybody. Do I think it is fully 100% achievable right now? No, because we're at such a divide with just two sides screeching back and forth at each other and nobody wanting to open up a dialogue like a lot of you
Mhm.
people do on the panels. And then on the other end, like from being born on the res and the reservation life and everything, the race and ethnicity stuff comes into play where I've seen a lot of inequalities. But I have never in my lifetime of 35 years seen either political party that has been put up to us offer
Mm.
any real help. I haven't had any real help from Democrats. I haven't had any real help from Republicans. Like at the end of the day, it's like, oh, these are your two choices. I'm voting for the less stinky shit out of two shits that both stink. Like, can you just give me a person that's not a piece of shit and that has actual values and that has actual plans of action that would benefit everybody in this country rather than either be it corporations, corporate Jeff Bezos type people, or have it just benefit the most low income people in the country. Have it benefit everybody so everybody gets an actual even playing field rather than playing to the two opposite ends of the spectrum, because no matter what you do when you're doing that, you're going to silence the people in the middle who, as we learned in 2016, will get pissed off and backlash over the fat old guy with a bad comb over. When everybody just needs to have their stuff heard, or they feel ostracized or not heard, or then we get bad backlash and end up with bad policies, and it's going to go back and forth in a war, and it's never stopped.
Yeah, I really think like the growing rates of people identifying as independent. If I could identify as an independent here or like register as an independent, I definitely do it. Sadly, I cannot because if I did, I wouldn't be able to vote in the Democratic primary. And I really wanted to vote for Bernie, and I really want to vote for oh, what was his name? I forgot his name. It's not Jamal Bowman.
Booker.
Booker, Charles Booker.
Mhm.
I was able to vote. I wanted to vote for those two, especially in this election,
He was
because I haven't
so
had too many
close.
elections under my belt. He was. It was
So
so
close.
sad. Oh man,
But for
I knocked
for
on a
how
couple doors
long
for
he
him.
ran and how much money he ran, it was insane.
Yeah, especially against Martha McGrath. She lost her race in 2018 for Lexington. which is like the second big city that people
So
would know
run
from
for a Senate
Kentucky.
then.
Yeah. So she was like, "Oh, I could parlay this into another loss," and she, you know what? She went for it. So you can't. She has ambition. She's got the O'Rourke bug in her. But it's sad that he couldn't get through. I really feel like he was polling really well against McConnell. But what are you gonna do?
Well, my people lost their right to vote. Yay. Sarcasm.
Well,
Like-
all right. So I just wanted to see if we could get back to the justice question.
I have a question. Sorry,
yeah, go for
Samantha.
it, but-
Real quick question here. So, when it comes to like reservations, right? Is there any sort of representation in like local government? Like, is it considered a district? Like, because I understand
no.
there's some-
Oh no, you didn't hear about what happened. I think it was 2016, 2017. Anyway, we have our local governments, obviously our tribal councils, tribal police, tribal stuff. We all police ourselves and take care of ourselves on our land, right? However, we don't really get representation unless we try to force our way into things. So, and that even became harder because they wanted to be like, well, you live on a reservation, you don't have United States addresses that the United States Post Office can deliver to, therefore you technically don't have a US address, technically you can't vote because all you have is a PO box. So getting that representation out into our broader communities, like, so the reservation I'm from is outside of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, by Tulsa. So to get any representation in that, we have to kind of, leave our land, move out, go run for these positions and put ourselves there, rather than them being like, hey, cool, we have natives over here. Let's see what they got to say because it's going to affect them too. Because a lot of us do work off the res, or some, live off the res. And there's really none of that as of right now unless we force it. At least for Oklahoma and the tribal areas that I'm from, the Muskogee, the Creek, the Choctaw, the Cherokee, and everything. I can't speak for every state and how they handle it, but in Oklahoma, that's what I know, and that's how it is where I lived.
I mean,
I can definitely. Oh, go ahead.
no, you go.
Oh, I can definitely feel like what you're saying when you're like you feel like you don't have too much representation. For me, I'm a little bit into like the how black politics or whatever. I don't know why, it just kind of appeals to me a little bit. But with the Democrats and the Republicans, like the duopoly that we have there, like for a lot of people, I think of my cousins and everything in Georgia under Kemp. I have family in the Carolinas. Back when they tried to do that one bill that was completely gutting black people's right to vote, there it had to be struck down by the Supreme Court, calling it surgically targeting black people, that stuff. So I can definitely feel you and understand your complete sort of feeling not represented at all. Obviously not to the same level as a lot of our Native Americans are, but I was just like I can feel that parallel though, and I'm also like really sorry about that.
Hey, no worries. I do have a quick question for you, regarding that representation stuff in government and everything. Can I just ask your opinion on how you feel about Joe Biden picking Kamala the cop as kind of like, I felt kind of like it might have been a token pick. Like I don't mind to be offensive, but how do you feel about that?
With it regarding it being a token pick, it probably definitely could be. She ran the whole time like I'm the black woman candidate, when I remember her like family even came out and was like, you completely abandoned your Indian side and you just went with the Jamaican side and you completely ruined the Jamaican side as well. You don't even care, you're tokenizing it. That was a really big thing, and like one of the reasons why she dropped out before December even. But with all of that being known, I know she checks a bunch of like token boxes and stuff like that, but even then, with Kamala Harris, this specific occasion, there was no better choice. Harris was Bernie's best choice. Well, his top pick. She was polling the best out of all four people running. Trump, Pence, Biden, Harris. She's the only one with a positive approval rating right now among like all registered voters. She is just the best pick. I don't like her that much. K Hive makes me want to die. But with all that being said, she was just the best pick no matter what. But if he picked like some random black person because they were black and a woman, obviously, I don't like just straight tokenism. representation is important, but representation with a reason is even more important. When you just get, we the parallel that I can think of is like women gamers. Like a regular woman game who's gaming and doesn't is like in the middle of the pack, people are gonna like lambaste her, say that she's like dog shit and she doesn't deserve to be there. And that's like it's with a lot of other people who need representation, they need to excel. And with her being checking the right boxes and being in the right place at the right time, and with her record being relatively okay and people relatively liking her, I mean, she was just going to be the best choice no matter what. So that's my opinion on it.
Okay, yeah,
Or,
I just wondering.
The cards were dealt. She's going to be the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Kamala was probably the safest bet for Biden. At the beginning, he said that he was going to have a woman as his running mate. So we already knew that was going to happen. I don't know, and there's no way to deductively know if her race played into it at all. But outside of that, even everything else points to her being the safest bet. So
he said explicitly that I had to be a woman, and then it was kind of implied later on as it kept dragging on that they should be black, at least part black. So
right. So I don't I understand the optics of identity politics, but that's kind of the state of the Democratic Party. So I don't hate the choice, but I'm not gonna sit here and maul about it.
More
no, my
POC
issue.
violence.
Yeah, no, my issue wasn't with Kamala and the black or the Indian aspect of her, but more the fact of her history
Being a cop,
with
yeah.
policing. Yeah, and I mean it affected my people pretty rough, as well as a lot of other people of color, but natives and the black community, and in California here the Mexican community really kind of catch the blunt of all of everything she's done.
Yeah.
And a lot of Joe Biden's policies as well. With he's been this super he's never been about defunding the police. He's always been about more funding for the police, which that's a different topic. But and big on the drug war, and big on the sentencing, the mandatory minimums and stuff like that. And he hasn't been a help to my community either. And so I'm just kind of conflicted. Is like I can't morally give my vote to this guy because of how much shit him and his running mate have affected my community with.
I don't like. I got a question for you. So, I think I deeply sympathize with this, and like I'm not gonna like lambast you if you say this, but like, do you think that Trump, like if you had to compare between Trump and like what Joe Biden do, if you had them as president, which one do you think would like least impact you, or impact you the least negatively / impact you positively?
Well, okay, here's where my take on it gets really different. Yes, things under Trump have been horrid. Like, we cannot deny that. However, like, honestly, how much more worse could it be? I mean, are people going to be rioting in the streets over something wrong that's happening? Good, we're already there. Are people going to be upset and disenfranchised because of policies? Yes, cool, we're already there. Like, maybe 4 years of Trump might be the push we need to get enough angry people that are not on the far right wing pushing things down and actually trying to tear stuff down so we can start over. Maybe, and it's not like he might do more bad things, but maybe it'll just piss people off to, push them all over that line where it's like, what, fuck it, we're changing everything. Let's do this.
So this was what I wanted to get at with is Trump an existential threat to socialists and leftists? And I know you're not a leftist, but here's my thing, right?
It might be, apparently, I don't know.
Right. So here's my thing. The reason we have so many people that have moved over to the further left outside of the Democratic Party is because of the failure of Obama to deliver on his promises, right? The Trump administration gives the Democratic Party enough of a of a scapegoat to where at every single problem that the U.S. has, they can just say orange man bad, and I don't want another 4 years of that. I want a
Oh my
Biden
God,
presidency
I hate that.
where I know, and I want a Biden presidency so that number one, things aren't going to get worse. They may or may not get better, but they're not going to get worse under Biden, right? And I know you're trans, and I don't want to preach to you about trans rights or anything, but trans issues are being just rolled back arbitrarily by the Trump administration.
Oh, how dare you speak on trans issues? No, you're
Well,
absolutely right.
well, I've heard people get mad at me about talking, but I don't see that happening under any circumstance under the Biden administration. When it comes to any major social issue, things aren't going to get worse under Biden. They could get better, right? Under Trump, they will get worse. And so they can always just point to Trump. It's just Trump is just this horrible orange mean man who can't blend his foundation, and he's having mini strokes, and we can do the little fun claps and stuff.
Beyond the ad homs, I want to like lay out maybe some more critiques of like what he's specifically done.
Yeah, go for it.
Between Barr and how he's dismantled essentially any sort of due process when it comes to legal issues. The fact that he's instituted so many lower court judges, like around 200 at this point, that are permanent lifelong positions that we can't get out. So they're going to like lean the courts further conservative as we go on. Between the fact that we have our education, right? He's actively trying to dismantle education with Betsy DeVos and trying to institute charter schools and defunding public education in order to advance these charter schools, which are proven to be less effective overall. Beyond the fact that he's dumping so much into like our military and advocating for these massive military increases and he doesn't have any environmental policy like at all, and he's like actively denying global warming. The fact that he denies science and has exacerbated this health crisis. I mean, the list could go on.
Yeah, it's there's so many.
It's very
issues.
extensive.
Yeah, there's so many issues that will get worse under Trump that will either stay as bad or get better under Biden. We can also point to the failure of the Biden presidency to people that are disaffected with the political process in general, and say, look, we can, if we just have a Bernie Sanders type or someone further left, we can actually get these things. Both the Trump Republicans and the Biden Democrats, who have the most progressive platform that has ever been run in U.S. history, right after the concessions given, we can have more people come over to our side. I don't know necessarily if it's your side, but at least a side that could get people in power, that could possibly push for, maybe not immediately, but eventually, a parliamentary system like the UK has, so that there's actual political coalitions that go on.
Yeah, that was going to be where I was going to go with this. So it's like, cool, we get Biden, but then you're going to have a bunch of ultra pissed off, right-wing people and, white nationalists and all these people. And then what happens when the blowback, and then they take the, House and Congress and everything, and then it'll be like Obama all over again, where Obama has these great intentions, and he
here's
goes
the thing,
to make
though.
these things, and then the House and the Congress are like, yeah, no, fuck you.
Here's the difference, though. The fact is that like there's a false dichotomy between like the left and the right, like associating liberals, people that inherently believe in capitalism, as the left in this country, and like the true left, which are like post-capitalist. So the thing is that like if you vote in Joe Biden and his shit don't work, the thing is that it actually works to the great advantage of the leftists, because they're like, hey, your liberal shit doesn't work anymore, my guy. Like, we got to go further left. We got to try some pro-labor stuff here now. We got to try a little bit of good old socialism if you want to actually get some policy done here, because the policies are popular. It's just that like whether or not the Democrats are actually willing to advocate for them is a different question. And there have been several instances of local elections and Senate seats and House seats where there are people getting attacked in their seats from the left. So
talk about Missouri 1 with Cory Bush.
Exactly.
That was a Democrat who advocated, who co-signed the Green New Deal. All right. And so even then, he got booted out. But I want to hit on a couple of these like marginalized issues for a second. Trump has been the worst president for specifically trans issues in like I think probably in the history of like this country, because for one, now we're even talking about trans people, and now he's advocating for like against like those bathroom bills, things like that, rolling back trans healthcare that had to be stopped by the Supreme Court, like all of these things. It's just crazy to me what he's doing, and he's just gonna walk away with it because the Republicans just don't care. Unlike POC issues, I mean, he's just horrible. Let's even talk about his disregard for like Black communities that have been utterly gutted through the coronavirus. There is no good way. There's nothing good under Trump. There is nothing that Trump is going to do that's good that Biden wouldn't have done better, and there's nothing bad
or
that Trump,
neutral.
yeah, that is going to do that Biden that is going to do worse. There just isn't a single issue, not one, not a single one. And to your idea that we just need Trump to lose to get on there to build on Grau's idea, if Biden loses this election, it's gonna be a real bad time for the left. I'm telling you right now. With your ideas, with any idea that you have about socialized healthcare, gone. Because 2024, they're running Mitt Romney. Okay, they're gonna run to the right. They're like, we pandered way too far to the left. We got to go right now. Mitt Romney is gonna be the new center of the party. It's going to be terrible. They're going to talk about how the Bernie-crats lost this election again because they didn't get exactly what they want, and it's going to be bad. It's going to be real bad for anybody who wants any sort of these systems that we want. We need a better system, but right now we have Biden, and he's going to be pushing for far better policies than Trump will. Going to be put marginalized communities in a far better position than Trump will. Like, oh yeah, him reversing the Housing Act and like going on his whole "we're making suburbia safe again." That's
God, yeah,
that's horrible.
That was
So
fucking
fucking-
cringe.
Yeah,
Dude,
he's
yeah,
literally
really,
he's
honestly,
like
fuck.
he's trying to rebuild segregation again through suburbia that's already pretty well segregated through the redlining. There's just so many things that he's going to do wrong on like marginalized issues. There's just no way that we can like defend it. And Biden's bad, but the only reason that he's even remotely been able to do more harm than Trump is because Trump's been in for 4 years, and Biden's been in office for 50.
Yeah, I understand the critiques of the electoral system. Of course, it's really easy to talk shit about it and to talk shit about Biden. It's super easy to shit talk Biden. However, I super worry about the equivocation of the two candidates. It's super disheartening to think that people honestly think that we're gonna burn down, either the U.S. is going to burn either way, so might as well not vote. I just think that I'm a utilitarian. I think that we should do the most.
Well, unless you're me and my people who can't vote.
Oh, so that's a question that I actually. So can Native Americans not vote at all?
They can if they live off the reservation, and they have a home and an address like off the reservation, and you can't just have like one dude go out buy a house off the res and everybody use that address. Like that's obviously going to be 575 people live in this 3-bedroom 2-bathroom, and Upper East Side of Tulsa. No, but I mean, no. If you live on the reservation, you can't vote anymore.
Can I ask a question that I got fucking yelled at by another Native American streamer about?
Oh God, I'm scared now.
No, this is a genuine question because I don't. It was Rain. I think you were there for a brief time and then you jumped out to go to Prime.
What was it? Rain?
That's what people are telling me. I don't know
a
whole bunch of people, but I asked because I'd heard this take before. What do you think about getting rid of the reservation system and bringing in Native Americans into the electorate so they can more adequately vote for their for their interests?
Hold on.
Yeah.
The point isn't about the representation. Like that's not the point about. The point about is like we still have a government who hasn't honored their fucking treaties with us, who hasn't honored signed documents for years and continue to this day to take away land from Native Americans.
Yeah.
To this day. Oh, you have a good spot, we could do fracking. You have a good spot. Hey, I know Like, it's part of your land, but hey, do you mind if we run this fucking oil pipeline right through your goddamn lake and water source? Is that cool with y'all? No.
Bro,
Okay, well,
no.
fuck you. Here's National Police, National Guard. We're gonna fuck you up and do it anyway.
Yeah.
They
Like,
just civil
the point,
forfeiture their
like,
way right on through Native American land, right?
so yeah, and you know who was a real big person who expanded the civil forfeiture? Joe Biden. Anyway, but like that's where I don't agree. Like, fuck you. At least offer us our land back for a while. You know, like,
Right.
just what is representation going to do? We can't vote our land back. We can't vote. Hey, there's not going to be a native person up there going like, hey, I vote. Here's my proposal that we give them their land back and honor our treaties. At least give them their reservations, like boundaries, original boundaries back, instead of shrinking
Yeah.
them, moving like where my tribe started off in like freaking like around Louisiana, Florida area, and like Georgia area, and we're like shoved farther and farther inland to Oklahoma. Like, my people aren't even from that area. Like,
Right. Yeah.
we're just kind of
I
like
agree.
shoveled over there further and further. But
The
it
way
doesn't make
we've
sense.
treated, yeah, the way we've treated Native Americans with the treaties and just deciding, oh well, maybe I don't care about this treaty, you know. I think that's super fucked up. I'm very solution oriented, so I always want to find what is the best way that we can help right these wrongs while also helping the people that we're trying to help, you know.
It's been so long that there's no feasible way to right a lot of these wrongs.
Right, of course, of course.
Like, I'm also not delusional. I'm native. I'm not delusional. Trans, not delusional. But like, there's a lot of places outside reservations where you can't give that land back because there's a community on there, and native people aren't going to be like, yeah, no, fuck that community. Get them all out their houses. That's my shit. Like, we have hearts and we have reasonable understanding to an extent, but like, so it's not really going to change anything. But we haven't even got the actual honest offer. We haven't got that honest hand, like, what can we do to help you? And then, you have the people like, oh, well, you're doing fine. You have casinos. Why do you need more land? Go buy some land off the reservation. That's not the point. Maybe my family has never left the reservation. Maybe we can't. Maybe we're a 5-generation household.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. The here's the basic argument. Not just
mind
the
you, I don't
voting
live on the
argument.
reservation. I live in the Bay Area of California now.
But
But yeah,
yeah,
the
but
point
like
still
the
stands.
thing that I've heard is that if we do away with the reservation system, then the Native Americans who have been super fucked by everything can at least, and I don't know if this is uninformed because people just don't know enough about Native American issues. But as far as I know, you guys can't get the same kind of welfare and assistance programs from the U.S. government on the reservations.
No.
Right. So by doing away with them, people would be able to qualify for those. But I understand like the implications of getting rid of reservations is really fucked up. I want to make sure that we are able to take care of everyone in the best way possible. And if we can do that by still respecting those treaties, I think that that would be the best way to do it. But it's just not enough of a conversation that I've ever heard enough differing opinions to.
Now, can I
form an
can I
opinion. Yeah,
can I
please.
kind of guess at to what Rain was getting at?
Yeah,
Where
absolutely.
we have already been pushed from we've already been displaced from our lands, right? We've already been taken away from our lands, and that's been taken away more and more from us, right? And we've been put on these other lands, right? And so basically that idea, that mentality to a lot of natives, especially the old ones like my jerk of a grandmother who's horrid to everybody that's not native, it would feel to them like they're now having it done again. Like, cool, they're having their little land that was given to them by the treaties and the agreements. Now that's being taken to all of it, and now they have to be forced to live with their oppressors. And I am thinking that was probably Rain's mindset too, was now you're displacing a group of people who has already been displaced and had all this stuff forced on them, and now forcing them to be surrounded by their oppressors.
Yeah, and see that's and I understand that that argument, and so I was prepared to hear that response. Their response to it was yeah, that's exactly what we want is a bunch of white people making decisions for us. When that wasn't what I was trying to ask, you know.
No, I understand.
Yeah, I genuinely I think that this is something that I want to learn more about, so that if it ever comes up, I can argue from an informed position, you know.
Yeah.
It's I just don't see enough people talking about it. I think that it's especially with the whole Oklahoma decision that was made recently, it's a lot more in the discourse, you know.
It's yeah, but at the same time, that was done for like a show of good faith. It's not like Oklahoma's like, here, cool, have this land back. Bye, we're out.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City is not a thing anymore. No, it was like a hey, we recognize this, you know, blah blah. It was a hey, cool, we'll make a plaque about it, and it'll be a nice, heartwarming story on Vox and BuzzFeed, and it doesn't fucking do shit. Because guess what?
So there's no
All of you in
legal-
Oklahoma that live on the res, you still can't vote. Congrats.
So there's
But here's this
no
great article.
legal ramifications for it, because that's what I was hearing, that there's possible.
Not possible, not as of yet.
Oh, okay.
And the elections how soon? What, 60 days?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, cool. They just announced that Oklahoma said that they recognize that as, you know, native land and everything. But like, how long do changes take for real in America? Like fucking. We might get an answer to this by 2029, or they'll make another treaty and not honor it. You know, it's one of those two possibilities.
I do not to deflect from the conversation too much, but I do have to question why someone near you is listening to Christmas music before Halloween.
Oh, sorry,
No, it's okay.
My partner is. I guess they're watching TikTok behind me. Sorry, I'm gonna change. I've been trying to mute my mic and cut that out, but
No.
Yeah,
It's totally
wait a minute.
fine. I just thought it was funny.
My
But
partner's
yeah.
weird. It's okay.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be interesting to see if anything eventually does happen with the Oklahoma decision. I would like to see native rights become more in the spotlight because of that. I think that would be really cool. Because you know, in Canada, native rights are a huge thing. Like, people talk about it all the time, whether or not the government is treating them right. There's at least a conversation in the general public about them, you know. Whereas here, I really wouldn't have thought about it much until the Oklahoma decision.
Well, I mean, I yeah, cool. Natives are disenfranchised, but there's a lot of other disenfranchised groups that
Of
deserve
course.
just the same amount of attention that I believe my people do. You know, I
Of
believe there
course,
should
yeah.
be the same amount of attention that we're giving to the Black community right now. They need it. They need to take the spotlight for a while, get their
Yeah.
message out. But there's other groups that need their message out too, and I don't find one more important than the other.
Of course, yeah. I can be mad about multiple things at once.
Yeah.
I again, something I said at the very beginning of the stream was I find talking about trans issues to be incredibly fascinating, because while we're having another
You
civil
would.
rights, huh?
No, I was just making a bad joke. My
okay.
bad.
But while we're seeing a resurgence in the civil rights movement for African Americans, I think that the new civil rights movement is for trans people, because of the just amazing amount of fucked up shit that people do to them. Holy shit, you know, just the basic rights that they ask for and then are denied, like not being able to get kicked out of housing for being trans, or
Or being able to serve would be nice. I would like
Yeah.
to join the military again.
yeah, all sorts of shit. I think that this conversation, I mean, it's getting a lot of attention, especially in the past couple of years, but I find that the conversation is incredibly interesting, and then there's a whole lot of philosophical questions that come along with it, and I find conversations about philosophy really interesting. So
Well, one thing I found up interesting about like the native conversations that are going on right now, and the outrage, you know, and the Oklahoma stuff and the Black Lives Matter stuff that's going on, and you know the LGBT stuff going on, what would really scare the shit out of the fucking government is if everybody teamed up at one time
oh yeah,
and did it together. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do? You have like the resurgence of almost like a Cesar Chavez like You know, get the Filipinos and Mexicans from California in on it. Get all the LGBTQ people in on it. Get the Black Lives Matter in on it. Get everybody in and just have like a fucking pub stomp. It'd be great.
Hey, one thing. Sorry to cut in. Thank you so much for having me, Soul. I do have to bounce. I have to
All
go
right,
to bed.
hey
I have
man,
work
it
tomorrow.
was an incredible honor to have you on. We should absolutely have another conversation sometime. Maybe set up a duo debate against two dumb fucks. I think that would be really fun.
Oh, it sounds amazing. The honor is all mine. I'm so glad that I was able to join you all. Hope everybody has a good night. Samantha, have a great one. Grau, have a great one. Chat. I hope you enjoy your life.
Yeah, and
thank
throw
you so
him a
much
follow.
for having me.
His name is right there. He just chatted, so throw him a follow too. He's amazing. I'll catch you later,
Yeah,
buddy.
my
Right?
name's Shark300. I do politics and gaming as well. We have a good time on my meme stream, so I appreciate it. Have a great one. I'll see you all later.
Take care,
Thanks,
man.
buddy.
Later.